In the beginning, there was no temple, no prayers, no offerings, only blood. Long before the world knew him as the smiling, goofy god in a tracksuit, Yato was something very different. Something feared. A god of calamity, born not from love, but from hatred and death. His origins trace back to Japan's forgotten folklore, a dark corner of the spirit world where gods were not born of belief, but of necessity. And in the chaotic realm between life and death, Yato emerged, young, nameless, and eager to prove himself. But he wasn't born alone. His creator was Father, a mysterious man who wasn't a god himself, but had the power to create them. Using Nora, spirits who had lost their names and wandered the void, Father forged Yato to be a tool, not of justice, not of healing, but of slaughter. Yato's earliest memories were soaked in red. He wandered war-torn battlefields at Father's command, ending lives without hesitation. With each kill, he grew stronger, but not in the way other gods did. He didn't gain worshippers or shrines. He became drenched in impurity, and his name, Yaboku, meaning the night's shadow, was whispered only in fear. To the living, Yato was a ghost. To the spirits, he was death. And to Father, he was just a weapon. He had no shrine, no home, only a single companion, a regalia, a spirit weapon named Hiyori, who later would betray him. Yato and Hiyori fought side by side for centuries. She took many forms, a dagger, a sword, a scythe, but she was more than a weapon. She was Yato's only friend. Or so he thought. As it turned out, she was also created and controlled by Father, who planted her to keep Yato bound in chains. Over the years, Yato's hands became heavy with the weight of lives he took, some evil, some innocent. But in the depths of all that death, something began to grow. Doubt. There were moments, fleeting, fragile, where he questioned his path, when he spared a child who clung to life, when he heard someone whisper a prayer not for death, but for safety. Moments when he wished to be more than a bringer of sorrow. That's when he began dreaming of something else. A shrine. A place where people could visit him not to kill, but to smile. A tiny wooden box with a nameplate. A worshipper or two. Maybe a regalia who wasn't cursed. Maybe peace. But dreams didn't fit into Father's plans. To make sure Yato stayed the god of calamity, Father manipulated everything. He unleashed phantoms, orchestrated tragedies, and used Hiyori to corrupt Yato's soul. The more Yato fought back, the tighter the chains grew. But fate, cruel as it was, still had a plan for him. One day in the present world, a strange event changed everything. A high school girl named Hiyori was walking home when she saw a boy in a tracksuit about to be hit by a bus. Without thinking, she pushed him out of the way, saving his life, but nearly losing hers. The boy was Yato. That moment, ridiculous and accidental as it seemed, altered the course of his entire existence. Hiyori became half phantom, stuck between the world of the living and the dead, and despite her condition, she didn't fear Yato. She didn't hate him. In fact, she cared. She called him stupid, sure. She mocked his goofy behavior and his obsession with getting 5 yen coins from clients. But she stuck around, and slowly Yato began to feel something he hadn't felt in centuries. Worth. Soon after, Yato met Yukine, a troubled young soul who had died tragically and became his new regalia, a sacred weapon. Yukine was no perfect partner. He was angry, scared, and constantly tested Yato's resolve. But their bond was real. They fought, clashed, cried, but eventually Yukine became Yato's sacred treasure, and their connection began to purify the god Yato once was. Still, the past didn't fade so easily. Hiyori returned, now calling herself Nora, desperate to pull Yato back into the blood-stained world they once ruled. She whispered in his ears, tempted him with power, and reminded him of all the people he had killed. Father wasn't done with him either. Manipulating events from the shadows, he created chaos across the near shore, the human world, and the far shore, the realm of spirits. Yato was forced into a brutal choice: go back to being the god of calamity to protect Hiyori and Yukine, or resist and let them suffer. And like always, he sacrificed himself. He agreed to serve Father one last time, to be his killing machine again, so that Hiyori could live in peace and Yukine could be safe. But this time, something had changed. Yato had a reason to come back. Hiyori, stubborn and brave, refused to forget him, even when her memories were taken, even when everything in the world tried to erase him. And Yukine, despite the pain, grew stronger, becoming a blessed vessel, a regalia so powerful and loyal that Yato's soul finally began to heal. Together, they formed a family. A weird one, sure, but a real one. And then, Yato made a decision that defied centuries of his own history. He built a shrine. Tiny, hand-carved, placed quietly near a riverbank. But it was his first step toward becoming not a god of calamity, but a god of fortune. A god people could pray to not in fear, but in hope. The journey wasn't over. Father, revealed to be a cruel, manipulative spirit with deep ties to humanity's darkest desires, launched one final war to destroy Yato's new path. He used Nora. He twisted Yukine's mind. He shattered alliances between gods. But Yato didn't break, because now he had faith, not just in himself, but in Hiyori, in Yukine, and even in the fragile world that had once rejected him. And in the end, it was that faith, not swords or blessings, that defeated Father. Epilogue: The Stray God walks on. Today, you can still find him, wandering city streets in a tacky tracksuit, scrawling his name on bathroom walls, offering to solve your problems for 5 yen. He jokes, he begs, he brags, but he's not the same god he used to be. Behind that ridiculous grin is a soul scarred by centuries of blood. A god who once existed only to kill, now fighting to live. To matter. To be remembered. He may not have thousands of followers, or massive shrines, or divine status. But Yato has something far more powerful, a purpose. And that makes him divine.